Welcome to Wirecast University. Today we're going to be talking about how to use USB controllers with Wirecast to speed up your productions and make it easier for you to switch shots and change things around. When you're working in a live production environment, speed is essential, and making things as easy as possible for yourself can really save a lot of headaches and a lot of worries down the road, particularly when you need to quickly move from one shot to another or change content on the screen. I'm going to show you how to use a simple USB controller like this ShuttlePRO contour design, ShuttlePRO version 2. Now you can pick up, this is, you don't have to use this one, there's different ones available, but I'll show you how to use that plus some hotkeys that you just simply map to certain buttons on the controller. The advantages of this, you could certainly do this using your keyboard, and so that's one option if you don't want to go out and buy a special interface like this. The nice thing about controllers like this is they work with more than one application, and they're very convenient. They're actually designed to fit your hand, and then you can quickly just tap a button. And the nice thing is you always know where that button is. You're not having to hunt for it on the keyboard, and you can assign it to do basically whatever command you want. So again, just tapping a button can activate something that's more complex inside of an application like Wirecast. So let's dive into it, and I'm going to show you quickly how to do that. So first, let's go to my desktop. You're going to want to choose your controller of choice, and I have here in the web browser just a quick picture of the ShuttlePRO. This is the Contour. It's made by a company called Contour Design, but of course there's many others like the X-Keys controllers and things like that. The basic rule of thumb here is you plug them into your USB port, and then there's software that you download and install that allows you to control the device and map hotkeys to it and create your own custom designs. Now, many of these devices come with preset hotkeys. The companies that make them have sort of gone through different applications and sort of said, oh, well, this is a very popular application. We'll make some hotkey, menus or selections for these. We'll make a hotkey set for that one. So there's different ones that are sort of preloaded. But of course, you can always copy them and then make your own. Or if there's an application that's not already in there, like Wirecast, you simply create a new set and you sort of point the application, point the controller software to that. And that's why in this particular one, there's a category called user, which just means that the user has decided what applications I want to map this to. Wirecast does not come preloaded. So I simply added a new set here. I chose my application, which was Wirecast, and I was off to the races from there. And what that does is actually opens a brand new set here, which is just called app. And this it basically pre-fills in some vanilla modifiers. Like, none of this really means anything. It has, type keystroke, hold down, hold up. It just kind of already maps some generic keystrokes. What you can do here is actually just remove, do nothing, or change them for each button. So you'll notice that this little button map here corresponds to buttons on the controller. So if I just tap a button here, it'll change button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5. So each of these controllers basically has a generic button 1, 2, 3, 4, and different buttons. And then depending on what you assign to it inside the controlling software is what you will get in terms of when you hit that button. And that will change depending on what application you're in. So I've downloaded. All that is to say, you download the software and plug in your device. Make sure that they're communicating, so when you hit a button that you see a change in the software. And then add the application, in this case Wirecast, that you want it to control. And I'm just going to remove this one. I don't actually need to, I'm going to remove the app. I've already set up one called Wirecast. And if you go, if I show you here, I've actually named it Wirecast. I've actually, for the moment, I haven't assigned these buttons to do anything. Because what I want to do now is go into my application and set up just a few more hotkeys or keystrokes that I can assign in Wirecast to do something, if that makes sense. So in other words, we need to tie this controller to some special commands inside Wirecast. Wirecast has a set of hotkeys that it comes with. So for example, if we have this simple sort of shot right here, if we hit the enter key, then what that's going to do is activate the transition, the cut transition, and it's going to take it all over to the right into the live window. And similarly, if I hit the space bar, it'll fade, and it uses the transition on the right here, the smooth transition. So Wirecast, again, you also find certain hotkeys sort of sprinkled throughout, sort of short keyboard shortcuts sprinkled throughout the software. And so we can actually already map any one of these. If we wanted, for example, button 1 on the ShuttlePRO to start playing all media files or all movies, we would use the Command P keystroke. So anytime I hit button 1, it would be the same as if I hit Command P on my keyboard, and all the movies would start playing. So again, there are plenty of little hotkeys and shortcuts already in Wirecast, but there's some that don't exist yet that I want to make. And those come to particular shots. If you want keyboard shortcuts to assign to particular shots or things in your project, so you'll need to create them and then assign them. So Wirecast has a hotkey manager, very similar to the ShuttlePRO, where you create keystrokes and hotkeys. But in this case, you basically manage them first in Wirecast, and then we'll hand those keystrokes over to the ShuttlePRO or the USB controller. And then anytime we hit the button that we want on the controller, it'll activate the keystroke that we have created inside Wirecast, the assignable hotkey. And then, boom, we don't actually have to hit that hotkey on our keyboard. We just now have it mapped to a button on this handy controller. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go into the preferences, and we're going to open the keyboard shortcuts preference menu here. Now, I've already created a couple keyboard shortcuts in here, and I already have a project set up. I've added my 2 cameras, I have a 3rd camera, and I have a couple titles in my project. Okay, so once you've got all that set up, you're ready basically to assign some keyboard shortcuts to those shots to make things easier. And then, as I said, we'll pull that back out and add it to the ShuttlePRO. So the first thing I want is looking at what I have here. I have a camera A, a camera B, and then I have a A-B shot, or a 2-camera shot. And then I also have 2 titles here. So it might be useful to give each one of these their own assigned keyboard shortcut so that I can map those around. Also, it's very useful to be able to assign a clear all layer. Wirecast works very simply when you're, when you need to bring something on the screen or off the screen on a layer. You just choose the clear shot on that layer, and it just blanks that layer. And there's a clear layer for every master layer because you may not want to clear everything all at once. You may want to just clear the title off, or you may just want to clear the layer below that off, right? So that's how the clear layers work. But rather than assign a different keyboard shortcut for every single clear layer, I like to just have a catch-all, just clear the decks, and then I'll click on what I want or bring back in what I want one at a time. So my clear the decks keyboard shortcut is just going to be kind of a clear all for Wirecast, and I'm going to call this clear all. And I'm going to record that as, we're going to call it option 0. Okay, so all I did was type option, held the option key, which is called a modifier key, if you're curious. It modifies, if you have different things on your keyboard, you notice there's little symbols. The modification means holding down that key, then modifies whatever the next key you press to be the second thing that you press. In this case, we're going to modify, and by holding the option key, we're going to tap 0. So now we have option 0. That's what this little sort of slash with a minus sign, that's the option key. And then the 0, that's the clear all. I also have the option to check this as global. I don't necessarily need to do that. These would mean that anytime, even if Wirecast wasn't, if you were in, say, Chrome or Safari and Wirecast was open in the background, theoretically tapping option 0 would still activate whatever keyboard shortcut in Wirecast that you have it assigned to. So it makes it global throughout the whole computer, not just when you're working in Wirecast. All right, and I have camera A, camera B, so I've just assigned just one, the number 1 to that, or the keyboard shortcut 1, keyboard shortcut 2 to that, and then we're going to add a couple others here. So we're going to make a, we'll do a, camera, maybe call this the 2 shot, and we'll make that 3. I'm just going to tap. So I hit the record button. I tap the 3. We'll make a couple others here. We're going to call this title 1, record shortcut. And I'm just going to make that, we'll make that option 1. So that way we're kind of going back. So that way I'm not using 4. If I wanted to add another camera, like maybe a picture-in-picture with somebody in a small corner or something like that, I might want to make that camera 4. So I might just make that the keyboard number 4. So since option is going, or a title is going to be on a different layer, it's going to have a different set of potential shots that are going to be near it. I'm going to just go back to 1, but this time add the modifier option 1. And then again, we'll do a title 2. And I'm going to record a shortcut, and I'm going to call that option 2. Okay, so that way I can hit 1, 2, 3 for cameras 1, 2, 3 on that layer. I can hit option 1, option 2 for titles 1, 2 on that layer. And I don't have a third title, so that's all we're going to do. All right, so we have our keyboard shortcuts. There's about what looks like 6 of them. And now all we need to do is assign them inside of Wirecast to the different shots. So the easy way to do that is first let's make sure our clear all layer is selected. So I want to assign that clear all. I'm going to right click on this clear layer shot on master layer 1, and I'm going to assign the clear all command to that. Anytime I hit option 0, now that shot gets selected. Similarly, if I do the same thing here, clear all, and I could work my way down through every single layer if I want to. I'm not actually using any of the other layers right now, so that doesn't really matter. So I've got it on the layers that I'm using. Clear all assigns those off. And then I'm going to just proceed accordingly. So remember we called this camera 1. So we're going to assign keyboard camera A, or 1. I'm going to call this camera B, which is the keyboard shortcut 2. A, B. I like to keep those sort of in line. A is 1, B is 2, and so forth. This is going to be camera 3, or also known as the 2 shot. Camera C, if you're keeping track alphabetically. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3. So just tapping the 1 pulls that up. Tapping the 2 pulls that up in our preview. Notice it's not going live yet because we haven't done any transition commands or sent it live or anything. And camera 3 pulls up our 2 shots. So that's just using the keyboard. And again, that's a great way to do this. But remember, we're trying to make this even easier for ourselves by assigning it to a really simple USB controller that kind of fits our hand, and then everything's right within a button click. You're not having to hunt. Okay, so finally we need to go back and we need to assign our titles. So option 1 was title 1, option 2 was title 2. All right, that should do it. I'm going to save this project. So my keyboard shortcuts should be saved. So every time I load this document, these shots should pop up and they should have the correct keyboard shortcuts assigned. All right, now if we just use the keyboard again, we hit our option 0, should clear everything, which it didn't. Let's try that again. Option 0. Didn't clear everything. Maybe I need to just do a 0 here. Let's try that. So we're going to hit, go to our keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to create another one real fast. And let's just do, looks like option 0 didn't necessarily bind. Let's just try a 0 there. All right. And we will assign this to clear all and clear all 0. Okay. So now we have option 1, and we'll pull up this guy. Okay, now we've got a setup here where if we pull on this 2 cameras and if we hit the 0 key, it's now zeroing out everything, which is great. If we hit number 1, and we'll do option 1 here. So option 1 is triggering back. Oh, you know what? I think, okay, so this is a built-in, okay, option, this is learning on the fly here. So option 1 actually triggers the clear layer on layer 1. So there are actually hidden short keys already assigned, and I forget where that's documented. I should have known that. I should have remembered that. So what's happening here is option 1 is actually a terrible choice for a hotkey, and Wirecast didn't actually warn me. It's supposed to not allow me to assign an already existing option key. So let's just pick a different modifier key. So instead of option, we're going to, for our titles, let's make it control 1. So we're just going to pick that as control 1. There we go. And we'll make this control 2. Oh, control 2. Control 2. All right, there we go. All right, sorry for that confusion. I was like, what's going on there? Why am I hitting that and it's still triggering that? Okay, so here we go. Let's make sure this is working here. So camera 2, let's pull up camera 2. Let's punch up title 2 with control 2. Boom. And let's pull up control 1. That's perfect. Control 2. And we'll pull up, and we'll just hit our 0 key. Boom. We're good to go. Okay? So we've now assigned a keyboard shortcuts. Everything is working the way we want it to. Sorry for the quick kerfuffle there. And let's now jump into our shuttle controller. And now we're going to assign those keyboard shortcuts to the USB controller buttons. Now this is where you can basically, again, do whatever you want. What's most comfortable for you? How do you want to use this controller during a live show? So I'll give you one example, an example that kind of might work for me or the way I might want to do it, but may not be the way you want to do it. There's multiple ways to do this, and there's ways to make it so that each button pulls up 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 shots. You can actually assign, as we showed with the clear all, the 0, we assigned it to 2 different shots on 2 different layers. So you could do the same thing with every button. One button could pull up, you know, shot 1 on layer 1, shot 5 on layer 2, shot 4 on layer 3, and just by hitting one button you could do that. Okay, for my case, I'm going to sort of follow this top row, and I'm going to kind of follow my layering system here with the first 2 layers because it's just going to make it easy. So in this case, this could be just my first title, right? This could be my second title, right? And if I had a third or a fourth, I could do the same thing. Down here, I probably want this to be a clear all because it's sort of my pinky is resting on this button, and so I think that might be good for the clear all. And then this would be similar for camera 1 would be good, 2, and then camera 3 or my 2 shot right there. And then I can leave this for whatever I need it to be down the road. And then I still have actually a whole bunch of other buttons. So let's start with just that simple thing. And here's all we're going to do. We're going to basically do the same thing we did before in Wirecast, and we're going to record the keystroke. Okay, so we will type a keystroke for this one, and this one, if I recall, is just going to be my title 1, which will be control 1. All right, and notice this got kind of grayed out, and then it hit, so that's been modified, and we're good. So, and I can even name this button action type. We can actually leave a comment here, and this could be title 1. Okay. And then similarly, button 2, we're going to type a keystroke, and we're going to, again, make this control 2. And we'll call that title 2. All right, now button 3 we're going to ignore. Button 4 we're going to ignore because we don't have anything on that layer. We can come back if there's something we want to assign to it. Now button 5 is our clear all. So we're going to do just my clear all. And this is going to be super simple. We're going to make it 0. And I'll leave a comment for myself, clear all. And then on this one, this will be camera 1 or camera A. And this should just map to 1. Camera 1 or A. And we'll type this one. Control, and we'll make this 2. 2 or B, and we're going to do one more here. Type keystroke, camera 3, and this will be camera 3/B. All right, so now I've basically mapped these here. So hitting these buttons is the same as hitting 1, 2, or 3 on my keyboard when I'm in Wirecast. It basically does the same thing. Should save me a little time there. Now what I want to do, and this is where it gets very interesting, is there's some things in Wirecast that can help your switching by just changing the mode, and we'll cover that in a second here. So there's a few keystrokes that I'll probably want to assign that are pre-built that just grab menu commands. So the first, as we mentioned before, was the spacebar and the enter. Remember, spacebar activates the transition on the right. So whatever's selected, whether it's smooth or bands, or if I had 3D plane, let's say for 3D plane, for example, if I hit spacebar, then I get this 3D plane transition. And let me just close this so it's easier. And so again, if we do this one and I hit spacebar, it's just like having this selected and hitting my go button. Same over here, we have cut currently selected. So if I hit enter, that's the same as selecting this transition and hitting the go button. So we could cut to that by hitting enter. So enter and spacebar are very useful, and they're definitely something I'm going to want to use or map on my controller. So let's jump back and assign those. So sort of logically, where it makes sense to me is to make the, there's sort of this thumb button here, which I will point out. It's right here on the right of the jog wheel. It's kind of the middle of the controller, and it's just a great place for me to tap a transition there. So I'm going to make that the one on the right, the transition on the right, which is our spacebar. And so I'm going to type that as a spacebar, and I'm going to call it right transition. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left with the opposite button, and I'm going to make that enter, and we're going to call that left transition. All right, so now just by hitting those buttons, I've now hit, it's the same as hitting enter or spacebar. And then the next thing we'll want to do is we may want to turn on or off auto live. Now remember, for those of you who don't know what auto live is, or if you're not familiar with that, that's up here in the switch menu in Wirecast. By selecting auto live, it's the same as basically just skipping altogether, having to hit the go button, having to load anything on the left. Whatever you click on just goes live using the current transition selected. You can tell this auto live is on because the red button is now always on, the go button's always on. So in other words, you don't need to click it, it's just already active. So whatever we click on just goes live with whatever transition is currently selected, the right transition or the left transition. So if we click camera B here, if we just click on that, it should go live with a 3D plane. And there it goes. And same if we do that, we just click on it, boom, 3D plane. So, and same if we change what's underneath, it's just going to use whatever's active. So that's auto live. It's very useful because it goes really fast. Now, when you're in auto live, you really don't need the left preview window very often because you're not going to be setting up shots before you bring them live. You're not going to be looking at what's off screen before you bring it on screen. It's just sort of as you need to make changes, you make changes, right? And if you want to switch over to the cut, we can use the left transition now. Just whatever I click on is cut into the frame. Okay, and same with clear, cuts off, cuts on. So at this point with auto live, you almost don't need the 2-up display. So auto live is very handy, but sometimes you don't want it. Sometimes it's not useful. So being able to turn it on or off, Command L is the toggle for that. So we're just going to do an auto live toggle, right? On or off. And that's a handy thing to have sort of at our fingertips, so to speak. So I'm going to turn on or off auto live, and that's going to be, I'm going to use another button here on the controller. The nice thing about these controllers, you want a controller that's got lots of buttons. So this one here I think will be my auto live. So we're going to type the keystroke. If you remember, it's Command L. All right, and we're going to call that auto live on off. And there's one other one that I think is very useful. So now if we tap our keystroke here, you'll notice it's on or off, and we definitely don't want to learn about that again. So that way anytime we turn it on or off, it just toggles on or off, and you can see here just by hitting the USB controller button there, it's on or off. Okay, So I was saying there's one other one that's very handy, which is the live preview swap mode. So that is going to be under the switch menu again. And this is live preview swap. It just basically, this is not very useful when working in auto live, but, or it can be, I guess, but no, actually it wouldn't be that useful. But it is very useful when working in the, with auto live off, when things are in the preview window and you have the two up, live and preview, and you're setting up shots. This basically just flip-flops camera A, camera B, and so it's very easy if you're working on an interview situation or you're just constantly switching between two camera angles. Then you want this on because it's going to make your life a little easier. So we're going to turn this on with the commands Option, Command W, Option, Command W, and that will turn on or off live preview swap, or also known colloquially as flip-flop. So we're going to just record that. Option, Command W. So again, I'm going to come in here. I've got that button. Button 11 is my auto live. I'm going to make button 13 just below it my live preview swap toggle. So we're going to do Option, Command W. And there we go. And we'll call this flip, flop, on, off. All right, there you have it, guys. I've pretty much set up my keystrokes the way I want them, and I've now plugged them into the USB controller. And now let's play around with it and see how it goes. There's a couple others you may want to assign, like you may want to start the recording, start and stop broadcasting, start and stop recording. So Command K and Command B. Those are pretty handy, so you can quickly just basically, it's the same as tapping these buttons here. And you'll have to figure out what are other things you like to use a lot that would be useful to have assigned to just a button for you. All right, so let's pull it up and see what it looks like. All right, if I'm using, now I'm going to basically be using just this controller at this point, and we'll see if I can get the hang of it. So first I want to start by just clearing all, so I'm just going, again, I'm going to keep my hand free here, and we'll just tap the button, clear all, and that worked great. Notice, however, it cleared all on the left here, in the preview window, but it didn't do it on the right, and that is because we don't have auto live turned on. So in order to make this go live in this mode in Wirecast, we need to use the go button or the take button, or choose a transition. So using my quick transition button, enter or spacebar, I'm just going to cut that live, and there we go. And now I'm going to punch up camera 1. I'm going to punch up the title for it, and I'm going to bring a 3D plane in. And there we go. Now I'm going to punch up camera 2, and I'm going to punch up title 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong title for camera. So there we go. I already made a quick mistake here. So I already actually have the correct title, but I don't like this 3D plane, so I'm going to quickly change that, and I'm going to smooth that in. And now I'm going to grab the clear layer on here. I actually want to take this title off. So here's one example where it's the clear all can be a little frustrating because you first have to clear everything, and then you need to punch up what you want, which is just the camera 2, right? And now we can take that live. All right, and now we can bring the title back on, bring it live, and then if we want to again take it off, we have to clear everything. We have to bring in, punch up camera 2, and then we bring it live. And I'm doing all this with just my thumb and like 2 fingers. So it's moving pretty quickly, which I like. Now let's just show you the example of, say, the flip-flop mode. So what I want to do here is I have camera 2, and I need to bring up my title here. So let's bring that up. Let's fade that title in. Now I want to punch up camera 1, which is not a big deal. I can punch up camera 1 with title 1. It's already done. But I don't want to have to keep doing this where I have to punch it up again and punch it up again, because notice if I take this live, now what's on the left here will be in both. If I don't have flip-flop mode, this is where you'll see why flip-flop's useful. If I don't have flip-flop mode on, this composition that I've created here is great, but it'll take over the right window and it'll remain on the left. So if I do that, boom, now I've got this twice, and I don't have the other camera angle that I just want quickly off camera that I can then bring back into the live easily. I have to actually punch it all back up again, which isn't too tough, but it is a little bit of an extra pain. So just by turning on turning on live preview swap, I can make that a little easier on myself. So just using my thumb here, I just toggled this on or off using our keyboard shortcut. And now that means a 2-directional arrow means basically 2 directions. These will swap. And that's the live preview swap. So now I can just hit my transition button, and they should actually take over. Let's punch that up again. Let's do camera, hold on. Camera A, and hold on, let's clear all. I want to bring up camera 1. We'll bring up camera with title 1, and we'll take that live, and I'm going to take off that. Boom. Okay, now I'm going to punch up camera 2, and we're going to bring up camera 2. Okay, now I'm going to turn on this, and the two should, everything goes well here, should just transition and flip-flop. In fact, we could do a cut here just to boom. Okay, so there I've got my cuts. That didn't quite work. Cut. Interesting. So that, for whatever reason, is overriding. Now, this could be a bug. I'll need to look into this, but you'll notice the title 1 is actually automatically changing to title 2. I'm wondering why that might be. That could actually be something worth investigating. The cameras are switching okay. The titles are the problem right now. Let's pull this up. Let's do this guy and none. And let's try cutting that. Yeah, so the titles are being persistent. Now, ideally though, test that out for yourself, see if you're having that same issue. If it is, then it's something we need to fix. If not, then it's just something on my computer and I just need to do a quick restart or reset the project so that I can clear that out. But that's basically it, guys. So you now have a pretty simple method of sort of swapping and quickly changing shots. You've assigned it the way you want it. It then just takes a little practice. Eventually it'll just become second nature. You'll get used to it and you'll really, I think, enjoy the ease and the flexibility that you have with a controller like this and how you've mapped it in. So hopefully this was helpful. I hope to see you next time for another episode of our live learning sessions entitled Wirecast University. We'll be doing these at different times throughout the weeks. We'll try to aim to do at least one a week, and the best way to find out about them is to sign up at telestream.net/wirecastlive or follow us on social media, and you'll get notified by either Facebook or YouTube when we're live. So you've got 3 ways: email list, which is probably the most reliable way, but the other ways are through the YouTube and Facebook notifications, just live notifications, and you'll know when we are on the air. And you can catch these and all of these recorded sessions at our YouTube channel at youtube.com/wirecasttube. All one word, WirecastTube. And thanks for tuning in to watch this episode. Hopefully this will be the first of many more to come, and I hope this was useful for you. Thanks.